They also get sent to different countries and states. They put them through slavery, prostitutions, and they are often beaten, raped, and drugged. Some facts about this is it mainly happens to children who are runaways. They are money profit for underage girls who could be up to $336,000 a year. The younger the child is, the more profit they're worth. Some victims are manipulated through psychological needs. For example, runaways. Usually they have like nowhere to go and nowhere to turn to. The people who take them they often tell them like, we'll give you like food, water, shelter. It's a deception to make them believe they're trustworthy. How to control the victim, or how do you take control of the victim? By repayment, sexual exchange for money, trafficker pockets the money. Some punishments are degrading, or they talk down to them. They beat them, they brand them, they threaten them, and they give denial of medical needs, starvation, and they even sell them to another trafficker. Some trauma to the victims may be feeling of helplessness, even low self-esteem, emotionally disturbed, or confusion. There are many case examples that have to do with human trafficking. This one, it's about a Saudi princess. She was charged with labor trafficking. She was held captive a girl from Kenya. Yeah. Captives took away her documents to isolate her from the outside world. The victim escaped, although language barrier, she was able to get help. The outcome, she was due to social class and flawed laws. Saudi princess had charges dropped. Some other cases are this girl, Sarah Robinson. She was 28 years of age. She was found guilty by the jury. She was sentenced to prison for recruiting and sex trafficking a 14-year-old girl from Arizona, and she was sentenced to 5 years in state prison. Another case is this girl named Chauncey Garcia. She was 38 years of age, or 34 years of age, found guilty by jury and sentenced to prison for human trafficking of a missing girl, and she was sentenced to 17 years to life in state prison. And in conclusion, human trafficking and labor trafficking, they both have to do with money and power, and control of dollars and people. And traffickers, they prey on the weak, they tear the victim's ego down, and they ensure that the victim doesn't have a voice. And that's it.
All right, Mariah, what did you think?
Oh, I thought that it was fairly okay. There's just like some problems I have, being that like you're focusing directly on what's written on the PowerPoint. The PowerPoint really should just be a tool that follows along viewers instead of like you using it to like focus around your speech when you can like add so much to it and just like point out details to the audience. And the cases that you put up there, I wasn't sure exactly where they came from. You didn't have a source to them, and that's pretty much about it that I have problems with.
All right. Well, Alexis, I think you've got the bare bones of a speech, and it needs to be developed, and I think you probably know that too. It's you've got an outline of an idea of a speech, but you don't really have it put together as a speech. You start off, for instance, with your name and topic, two things I told you not to do. You've got an important subject, so I think that that's a good thing. I think the selection of the topic is fine, and what you want to say about the topic is important. So we've got a good justification for talking about it, but I don't know how you're going to develop it. There's not really a preview. It's like Mariah said, you just suddenly start giving us a list of stuff that's there, and you are basically just telling us what's on the slides. You're not really explaining anything or giving any examples or statistics or facts about those things. The one piece of data that I can recall from there is apparently there's at least $336,000 in potential profit that you're going to get if you I want to be careful. That makes it sound like you're advertising for trafficking. In other words, this is a business to get into. If you can traffic 3 or 4 people, you're in pretty good shape here. That's not really what you want to be saying. That's the reason you're talking about that is why do people get into this? They see that there's a way to exploit people and make a substantial amount of money, potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars in this particular situation. So how exactly do they do this? By the worst forms of exploitation possible. That's of course for people who are selling the victims into sexual slavery or something like that. I don't know that the princess that you're talking about who's keeping the girl from, was it Kenya? Yeah, is making any money off of that, except that she's maybe saving money because she has a slave instead of an employee. I don't know how they figure those sorts of things. So there may be different types of trafficking that you're talking about also. That might be something to talk about. It just feels a little bit like you are, here's a slide and I've got a bunch of information on it, I'm going to read it, and I don't even know why one slide is different from another. There ought to be some more substantial reasons for them. So that's a little bit problematic. There's nothing visually interesting about the slides there, so you're not getting any dynamics into that you really want. And you start off with a title page, another thing that I told you not to do with the visual presentations there. The traffickers that you described who are being punished, I think that's a good thing to talk about, to say, here's a story, here's an example, but you need to give us a little bit of context to this story and make it something that's dramatic and pulls us in. Hearing about somebody that we've never heard about before, here's what they were sentenced to do, to prison for, here's what their crime was, thank you very much. Well, tell us about the victim, how this exploitation occurred, how they were finally tracked down. What makes it interesting is that there's a story there. You're giving us like the bullet point version of a joke. If you're telling a joke and you said, bar, a guy, somebody walks in, parrot, pirate, punchline. And I know that there's a story there. There's a funny point to the joke. There's a story in what you're talking about also, but we're not getting the story, we're just getting the bullet point kinds of things. And that doesn't make it as interesting as you want it to be for a speech. A speech is something that's supposed to draw people in and you're relating the subject to us instead of just running through a bunch of data. And I think that your speech feels a little bit too much like the data drop. All right, thank you. Appreciate your